Morning everyone here in The Hague and selamat siang untuk semua yang mengikuti dari Indonesia. My name is Rizal Sebastian. I'm professor at The Hague University of Applied Sciences and I'm also the chair of research group Future Urban System. It's my pleasure to host the panelists here at our campus in The Hague, as well as we have two online panelists from Indonesia. Good morning and welcome to you all. Welcome to the session where we will have interactive discussions about the complexity of living labs involving many different stakeholders and real experiences from Indonesia and from the Netherlands. Just now you saw a picture of The Hague. I hope you still remember. Yes, we are here in the beautiful city of The Hague, but in that picture something is missing. The people. So it's a nice built environment. It's my field as well. But I think today we will focus on the people and the involvement of organization and processes to make a living lab a success. And talking about people, we are lucky. We are accompanied by this esteemed panelist from my right-hand side, Professor Luus Witteveen, Dr. Jan Vleervoet, and Dr. Peter van der Meer from Van Hal Larenstein University of Applied Sciences, and Ibu Yesti Widyasari from IPB Bogor, my colleague Jarko Verskoor and William Sanchez from Saxion University of Applied Sciences. And we have two online panelists, Ibu Dwina Rosmini from ITB Bandung, my alma mater, and Ibu Lia Leiring from Uniman. Thank you for being here and thank you for taking a place in the panel. Well, as a proper guest, a proper host, I will give a short introduction about our institution. But without further ado, we will go into the content. We have a lot of very interesting presentations, which will inspire you to ask questions. First, about the scientific concept of living labs will be presented by Luus and Jan, followed up by a number of examples. And William will close with the role of the NL Knowledge House and our initiative in living labs. That's on the menu today. Well, let's see. Yeah, we are at the Hague University of Applied Sciences. We are based in Hague region. We have 4 campuses, and we are also a UNESCO school. We are part of the UNESCO school, and we host the UNESCO Research Chair on Applied Data Science and AI. I think for those who are not with us on the campus, this is a very short movie to give impression who we are and where we are. Could you play the movie, Helen? Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. So when you are visiting the Netherlands, feel free, feel welcome to visit us. can move to the next slide. Yes, our history goes back to more than 350 years ago, but our current institution was actually merged in 1987, as we are now as an organization combining professional education, higher professional education in the Hague region. We are a public university. We have around 26,000 students allocated in 7 faculties and 6 centers of expertise. And yes, of course, as University of Applied Sciences, we are offering associate degree for lifelong learning, bachelor, master, and we started with professional doctorate, which is at equal level with PhD. Well, without further ado, I'd like to give the floor to Luz, who will introduce the concept of living lab based on scientific research. Thank you, Luz.
Let me check. There's the camera. Hello, audience. Do you hear me? Do I speak loud enough?
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome, audience. Live at Kicking here as well. It's my pleasure to be again at this year's winner conference, and it's very nice. We have it once in the Netherlands. It's a bit closer by for us. It's a bit. Hi, Leah and Dwina. Last year we were together in Bandung, and there it was hosted by Professor Dwina of the Faculty of Environmental Engineering. So we're still together. What we are going to do in this session and what we tried to compile during the preparations is how to bring thinking about living labs a step further. I think by now we all know everybody loves living labs, isn't it? That's going to solve world problems at large. Fantastic. We still only have to make it work. Yeah? And as academics and professionals in the field, we feel responsible then to dig into this challenge and to share with audiences how it works. And therefore, what we are going to do with my colleague Jan, we are going to give an introduction, which is basically departing from a paper, a research we wrote together with Ibu Lia and Ibu Dwina, focusing on the analysis of a series of living labs. We are working together. And let me start with Sulawesi. Welcome, Sulawesi, that you're here with us. We have a colleague from Brin, Sulawesi with us. We met at the matchmaking. And it's, of course, I mean, the famous ITB, but it's also nice. We have also Sulawesi, I mean, Indonesia. You're big, huh? We are.
Yes.
Yeah. Our focus is on the performance, participation, and lifetime of living labs, which is the shortest summary we can give to say, well, that's where the challenges are. Yeah. Are we performing? And of course, we are all academics in the field, so our perspective is a little bit higher education. Yeah, the role and position of higher education. At the same time, we are researchers on living labs. Yeah? Participation is also very important to say, well, that's our perspective. If we talk about living labs, I think Rizal made it very clear with the additional slide on people. Yeah. Living labs are there to hear the voice of people who are not always linked to larger research projects, to higher education initiatives, etc. And the lifetime, that is because we are increasingly observing. It's easy to say, oh, we started a living lab, then what? Yeah, is the lifetime of a living lab exactly coinciding with a project lifetime, etc., etc. Yeah.
So you just touch on the screen.
I touch on the screen. Yes. So here you see a short visual impression. So the research, as we published, is originating from experiences in the living lab Pecitaru, the living lab Enrekang both in Indonesia, Java, Sulawesi, living lab Delta East and living lab Geus, Delta East in the eastern part of the Netherlands, and living lab Geus is more in the central part of the Netherlands. Of course, as most of you, yeah, a first question, of course, is what is the definition we use? And we follow here a definition focusing on a boundary system. So it's either a location, either it's a theme or whatsoever. It's a collaborative approach. And that is a major thing. It's a collaborative approach where you work together in experimental settings to co-create and test whatever you like to explore. And that is what it makes important, that we have the academia, universities, we have industry and business, the government, public sector, and above all, civil society. Yeah. And who else? In some circumstances, you have also added to the quadruple helix as a specific group. I know that, for example, from India, where the media do come in, which is voicing the public, but in a mediated way through journalists and others. Why are we so curious? Yeah, why do we care for this? How do we come about with new scientific approaches? First of all, we have urgent problems to solve in this world. And these problems are very complex. We still like using this famous tweet of Barack Obama. We are the first generation, yeah, to feel the effect of climate change, and also the last one to do something about it, which means our students, yeah, have to care about their future. I have to care about the future of grandchildren. Yeah, so there are generational differences, but we have to care for the future, and that's complex. Here you see a picture from Citarum River, where you see the pollution in the river, you see the housing close by, and all this has yet to become drinking water supply for Jakarta. I mentioned, and first of all, these beautiful murals is a community art project in Bandung. That's where we made these pictures. We see different generational viewpoints. Yeah, so if I say our students care for the environment, I care for the environment of my students, we still have, yeah, more or less a same viewpoint, but I could only also say, who cares? Yeah, within 20 years, I wouldn't care anymore, yeah, about climate problems. Yeah, in my lifetime, there will be still ice bears walking around somewhere in the north of our planet. But the generation not yet born, yeah, we give them this world. Yeah, you pass on the world. Yeah, it's not something you can abuse and then you throw it away with the wrappings, etc. On top of this, and this is something we are not always used to in the academia, knowledge and perceptions become political. Yeah, so you can have opinions on climate change. You can have opinions on future challenges, on current issues, etc., etc. And it's not so easy anymore to say, well, it's right or it's wrong. Yeah, and we also don't have always somebody in between who says this is correct and this is incorrect. That's, for example, the legislative system increasingly comes in to define according to the law. This according so, but as people we find it more complex to define what is right, yeah, and right could be derived from knowledge we have in a technological domain, but from a moral, right, when we talk about justice, for example, then you have already a different discussion. Moreover, conventional adoption and diffusion models have lost relevance. Yeah, it's no longer that you say, here we have an adoption, please everybody use it. Yeah. Quickly, we have aspects of access, of inclusion, of an entire responsible innovation view on things. Yeah, the aspects, for example, if we look at mobile phones, yeah, we all have mobile phones, but the minerals, yeah, have to be mined somewhere. Yeah, and the mining of scarce minerals, it's easy not to pay attention to it, but that is too easy. Yes. We are also very much worried about participation approaches. Yeah, the top-down versus bottom-up dichotomy is from the past. Yeah, that's too easy to say. And another consideration coming up is participation as a scarce resource. You heard the number 26,000 students. Rizal, you mentioned here in The Hague. Yeah. So imagine 20 students per living lab. How many living labs could be initiated by only this university? You can imagine that I see people running away. Actually, as I look through the window, because I might be involved in a living lab, yeah, and I've been already approached by students so many times. Yeah, a concept of stakeholder fatigue, yeah, is also noticeable. While at the same time, yeah, there are people in more remote areas, yeah, or where you don't have a conducive public transport system, are forgotten. We never hear their voices. So we have to think it all over. And thereby another aspect we really like to highlight here, it's not that easy that you start and you get somewhere. Yeah, there is a history in our lives. Yeah, I think during the matchmaking we looked at the monoliths from Central Sulawesi. Yeah, quick explanation. There is a past. We have to deal with the past. Yeah, and the past also defines our mindsets, defines our aspirations, and so on and so forth. So it's complex, it's messy, yeah, and we have to deal with that. So taking all this together, yeah, we have come up with living lab characteristics, which is based, yeah, on literature study, which is based on reports, which is based on further research in general. A major issue is transdisciplinarity. And there you see complexity creeps into the problem also for this reason, yeah, because we can talk a lot about transdisciplinarity, but most of us have not been trained. Yeah, if you have only been trained in agricultural science, only in engineering science, it's not easy to say, okay, yeah, there are other knowledge domains which equally require respect. We are looking increasingly for more horizontal partnerships, as it's no longer the top-down, bottom-up. You know, we don't have to look in a pathetic way to citizens who are maybe not as eloquent as us in English or don't wear the appropriate dress or whatsoever. So it's user-centered. Yeah. If we talk about being relevant in society, we have to link to society as well. So what we have been doing, we felt accountable to at least report on what we are doing to give insight on our experiences. And here you see a very quick overview of research we are doing. There you see we have worked with social imaginary methods in the living lab at Citarum. We are at work in Sulawesi, and looking at virtual living labs as a new concept as well. But for today, we basically like to focus on this research. Yeah, this was published last year, which is digging into these 4 living labs, yeah, where we have been working together, and Jan will add on this article, and then Ibu Lia and Ibu Dina, who are also co-authors, will talk about their experience as if we have the case studies with us, and also our colleague Peter van der Meer. And you are together, huh? Presenting another case study on the oil palm project as well. Thank you. Yeah, you proceed.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon in Indonesia. I will continue with our story and and especially about the paper we published together with our colleagues in Indonesia about the performance of living labs. I will not dive into the content of the living labs, but that will be done by Leah and Dwina. But 2 are more focusing on integrated river management, and other living labs are focused on regional sustainable development. But what I want to do is to focus on, we reflected on those 4 living labs, and especially dive into the analysis, the framework we use to reflect on those living labs. So we used 3 different dimensions. First of all, living lab environment and focus. So what is the social ecological system where the living lab is situated in? How to create a safe environment for learning, collaboration. The focus of the living lab. What do you want to aim for? What is your vision? Another dimension is about living lab methods and collaborative action. So different methods you use to set up or support the collaborative process in the living labs, involving all the different stakeholders. And finally, you also want to reach to some living lab outcomes, products, new ideas, innovations, but also to set up the transitions for all different kinds, for example, in the water sector or in the energy sector. But secondly, also what Loes already introduced, living lab it's not a linear way, and there are also, especially as you look at the network, the stakeholder configuration, we really want to look in the life cycle of living labs. Therefore, we use this framework. This framework is developed by Imperial et al. And he made a life cycle model of network governance. And we also use this framework to analyze or reflect on our living labs. And it distinguish 4 different stages, you could say. So a living lab can be in an activation stage, collectively stage, or in a really high institutional stage. And then the 4th stage is it's about stability or declining or reorientation, and it can happen on all the 3 stages as well. So also in activation, you can have activation stage. If you are there, there can be decline or stability or reorientation. So those 2 framework we use to reflect on our 4 living labs, 2 in the Netherlands and 2 in Indonesia. I will give some results of our research. So first, on the environment and focus, what we see is on all the living labs that the stakeholder configuration was constantly changing. New relationships were built, new organizations came into the process, and also what was happening, all kind of new policies were implemented or stopped, and it's changed, of course, the dynamics in the living labs and the environments. And what we also saw, it's really important that you make a distinguish between what we call the enablers of a living lab. Often that are the providers for funding, or and often there are public or governmental organizations, maybe logistics, giving room for co-creation session, and the people who are organizing or facilitating the co-creation process. So the living lab activities, and make sure that you distinguish between those different roles and how you and how who is involved in that. For example, academia or government or NGOs. Secondly, about the methods and collaborative action, a lot of different methods were used to support co-creation in the processes in the living labs. For example, here you see community art in the Upper Citarum, canvas workshops, visual research methods were used. Also different envisioning methods were used. So all kind of methods to support this co-creation and horizontal partnership. But important also what we learned from our case studies, especially concerning participation, and also focused on civil, so citizens who are involved in the living labs, they often participate for free, and we have to take this into account. So citizens, they don't have paid salaries, or so we have to make sure that they are all included and are engaged in the living labs. On the other hand, we as academia or other non-civil stakeholders are also citizens. We have to deal accordingly to that as well. And materializing participation and voicing links also to communicative and social cultural aspects. And maybe to conclude this all, I think what we have to do as well, and have discussions on that as well, is that we have to take into account the social capital of living labs. So that's, I think, really important aspect. Outcomes, a lot of products, ideas were invented in the living labs, but really, and also unexpected outcomes. But really, what also Loes was starting, the living lab approach is not undoubtedly leading to explicit positive outcomes, and definitely not going in a linear way. It's always really dynamic. And And also what we looked at, as what I said before, we used the life cycle framework as well to reflect on the living labs. And it was really helpful to do that because all the living lab are in different stages. So it really helped to get insights in the performance of living labs. And what we also saw that a lot of these living labs were in the stage of reframing, reorientation, or recreation, which is very difficult, especially for citizens who are involved, to keep engaged in the living labs if the goals or the ideas are changing often. Lucy, you will do the last slide.
As we are looking forward, which is actually also what is happening now, as the results were published last year, what we are doing now at the moment is say, well, what is our task? First of all, we are responsible to do something with the curricula in the living lab. We haven't talked much about facilitation of living labs, but we see there is a responsibility. Don't take it too light. So what does it mean for our curricula? And it also means looking at students, but it also looks at roles and responsibilities of academics. You can't just use people, yeah? You can't just say they are the subjects or they are the respondents to my study and you don't care further. Also the risk of using the living lab approach for all science-society interaction that requires attention. I mean, don't call everything. If it's an internship, it could be an internship. Doesn't need to all be mentioned or flagship like living lab. And we are proposing a further elaboration of the framework, using the dimensions, using the life cycle approach to come to a shared framework for evaluation and monitoring of living labs. And this is our last slide, isn't it? Yeah. So that means, yeah, this is how far we have come for now. But immediately our colleagues will proceed with bringing it to the reality on the ground with new examples. I think, Leah, you join us now, or Dwina?
Dwina will come.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yes, thank you
my
so much.
esteemed colleague, Professor Dwina Rosemini.
Thank you so much, Luis and Jan. Thank you, Luis.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear my voice.
Yes, it's loud and clear.
Oh, okay, thank you. So, good morning, everyone in The Hague, and also good afternoon, Bu Lia. It is I'm very happy to be in this session, and I would like to tell about one of the example of the living labs in the Upper Citarum River. Next slide, please. Yeah, I think the first time when we talk about the living lab, what I'm thinking is only the Upper Citarum River, because it is a river with a very complex problem. Luz already showed the problem at the first slide, I think. And then, so until now, I think so many activities or so many uh, program that been developed by the local government and also the national government to make better Upper Citarum River water quality, I think. But I think we still struggling to reach the goals, I think. Next slide, please. Okay, so it is in our study, we already mentioned that the major institutional actors acknowledged that the repositioning riverbank community as a steward of the river rather than a polluter requires a humanities engineering approach, I think. So me as a lecturer that come from the tech engineering, I think sometime the social and humanity aspect is very limited to be developed in our curricula. So, but now we are starting to develop more humanity and a social aspect in our curricula. So it is it is an important thing to integrating a social perspective and engineering perspective as a relatively unfamiliar approach in Upper Citarum River communities, I think. Next slide, please. So it is in Upper Citarum River that the water management becoming very complex, especially because we have a very lot of problem, especially in the social pressure because of the population. We are one of the province with the very populated in Indonesia, and then we give a huge burden to our river based on the domestic wastewater and also industrial, and also if you can see in this slide, I think this it is we have a problem in upper part of the Citarum because we changed the forest becoming agriculture, and it is becoming make a huge burden to our rivers. And sometime if because also the influence of the climate change, we have a regular flood in some area in along Citarum River. Next slide, please. So it is for us, it is very important to look for the participatory and deliberative the approaches to manage this river water. So it is we need a higher quality of decision making process. Put everyone to uh, voices their they thinking or their idea, and then increase the public support and commitment, and then also empowerment the stakeholders, and also the enhancement of social learning in our curricula. Next slide, please. So it is this year, I think try to make a concentration in one of the area that I think lose already uh, come to this area. It is the Kampung Ciwalengke. So it is we spot or identified that it is we have a problem in the shared sanitation facilities. Sometimes we call it as MCK, because most of the community in this area is depend on this MCK. So that's, I think we have several MCK, but the facilities is very poor the condition. So it is, and then it is becoming source of the pollutant to our in the upper Citarum River. See. So this time I work with my colleagues Bu Anindria Nastiti, and also actually we have 5 students to go to this field to identify the problem and also the facility problem in MCK in the this area, I think, in Kampung Ciwalengke. So next slide, please. So it is, I want to tell more about the wash and toilet facilities or MCK in Ciwalengke. So most of the people or community in Ciwalengke Kampung is depend on this MCK. We identify there is 6 MCK, and because of the low water and sanitation access in this community, so most of them depend on this MCK. And then most of the MCK facilities are built based on donation because the social economics problem in this area, and then the poor water quality that because our river water is already polluted, and but they have to use this water from the river. And then also we the other problem is the lack of operational budget and maintenance, and also lack of on-site sanitation treatment unit, I think. So it is the problem because it will give pollutant to the river, actually the fecal coli microorganism. So in the fecal coli average concentration in this Majalaya monitoring point in the river is about 487,000 of uh, per 100 milliliter. It is the monitoring number that comes from the BBWS Citarum. Okay, next slide, please. So we try to map the problem of the sustainability from the view of the community. Actually, the community will give a support to this MCK, but they didn't know how to support this the sustainability of this MCK. So in this picture, we can see that we try to see the several aspects of sustainability of the MCK facilities based on the economical and also the environment, the technology, and also the social aspect. So the green one, it is only the one that it is fulfill the indicators that it is becoming will be sustainable, but the others is still somewhat sustainable, and some of them is very unsustainable, I think. So it is a challenges for me and also from our student to solve this problem. Next slide, please. So it is based on the sustainability performance of the facilities. It is also we still need to increase our effort, I think, because in for airway the score is very limited in the aspect of sociocultural respect and also the community participation, also the political cohesion, economic sustainability, and also the environmental sustainability. So the number is still very low compared to the target that we want to achieve or our goal. Next slide, please. So as already mentioned with Jan, I think, so it is result for the living lab in Upper Citarum. So we need to enhance several methodology in the living lab, so we can try to uh, collaborate with more significantly with other stakeholder from the local government or also from uh, the the student and also the academia and also the other stakeholder that they have the power to enhance this MCK revitalization. Next slide, please. So it is the next program or next step of our uh, activities is we will try to working closely with the local government to enhance the coordination, because it is a problem in our province or our area, and then leading an exciting MCK revitalization project in partnership with the community, and also enhancing sustainability indicators through the innovative living lab collaboration. I think the next is my last slide. Thank
Yes,
you for
thank you
the
so much, Edwina.
time.
Very interesting, very tangible, which leads us to the next example from a different region. So, Ibu Lia Lairing, would you mind taking the stage and share with us your experience in Living Lab, which is also done in collaboration with Luz and Jan, as I understand correctly.
Yeah,
Floor is
yeah.
yours, Ibu Lia.
Thank you very much. Selamat sore from South Sulawesi, Indonesia, and good morning for those joining in the Netherlands. I'm so excited to share with you the state of art of Living Lab and Rekang, as mentioned the previous speakers. And in this presentation, I'll be focusing on how we've been working with the Living Lab, using the Living Lab models to foster multi-stakeholder collaborations that include methods, key outcomes, and lessons learned. At the end, I'll also highlight some challenges that we face along the way. So I hope that through this presentation, I can provide you with insights into both the potential and the complexity of applying Living Lab approach, especially in the rural setting. So let's move to the next slide, please. Yeah, the next slide, please. Okay, so this presentation, it's built around the Living Lab triangle framework that was introduced by Jan. That has been discussed, and I will structure the state of the art of Living Lab and reckon around the three key dimensions in the framework, which is environment and focus, and method and collaboration actions, and also the outcome. So from the environment and focus, from the Living Lab and Rekan perspectives, it's focused on to support the sustainable rural economy that heavily rely on agriculture sectors, and also the method and collaborative action we are using is for the design and development of digital farmer field schools using Living Lab approach. So the outcomes, it will be something that we're going to provide, like what are the changes that we have generated from Living Lab processes, include lessons we learned along the way. So next slide, please. Yes, as you can see from the slide here, from the screen, I think more or less the same to what Living Lab Chitarums is coming up, but this is also around what happening to the South Sulawesi. It's especially in Nrekang as an agriculture district, the agriculture development facing challenges in terms of sustainable agriculture, where farmers are adopting traditional method of farming practices, and that has been also a challenges to risk for the health environment. And recently we have observed lots of landslide and plus flooding as a result of deforestations, and also with the reduce of the land capacity. So this is the context that we are trying to address, and that's why we need to increase access of the farmer to the sustainable farming practices through using the digital learning platform that will be used by the extension officers and the farmer groups, which the design and the development of this is involved different stakeholders, because all the issues that we featuring these slides is actually involving different stakeholders. So the Living Lab of NRECAN started with we have the key stakeholders joining at first. Initially was with the District Agriculture Office, District of Livestock and Fisheries, and then Environmental Office, and University of Muhammadiyah and Rekang. And later on, we District of Health coming on board, bringing the issues of health associated to this spraying of pesticide or poison out of pesticide, and also during the COVID pandemic, the COVID information is also integrated into this agriculture or extension activities. And then recently we got also emergency BNPB, BPBD, which is emergency management, local emergency management body, joining as well to the Living Lab. So can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah, from what we have achieved so far, the Living Lab and Rekan has created a dynamic space for collaboration between multiple stakeholders and facilitating partnership for focus on innovation and shared learning. One of the major achievements is the release and testing of digital farmer field schools prototypes. And we are also currently in discussion with Ministry of Agriculture to upscale this based on the result of the testing. And also to widen the impact of the FFS in the rural communities. With the introduction of the FFS, extension officers have developed skills in designing interactive and inclusive digital tools that help them to share up-to-date agriculture practices more effectively. And lastly, the establishment of, for the Living Lab, establishment of clear design principles, promoted transparency, and in the management of Living Lab collaboration that essential in fostering trust and collaborations. So next slide, please. Thank you. With the Living Lab outcomes now, we also acquired our outcome that we said it is not only this achievement, but we also learned valuable lessons from the process that we've gone through. So if we can go to the next slide, please, then we can discuss about lessons learned. Yeah. So from the process, we learned that successful Living Lab rely on trust and collaboration with institutional partner, and therefore maintaining and respecting the relationship is essential for long-term success. In addition to that, working closely, I think Luswetapan mentioned about the inclusivity and participatory. That's also required to working closely with the farmers, extension officers as a key users, and of course with the policymakers as a Living Lab partners. It's a crucial to building a solution that works for everyone. So but that's the lessons learned, and let's see how the challenges, what are the challenges we face. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yes. So here, as a DFFS is a complex design processes, it's required back and forward process, and it's required transdisciplinary approach. I think Luswetapan mentioned about this. We come up with different priorities, different specialty, different discipliner coming into the space and working together. And of course, that requires significant coordination and collaboration effort to make it work. And as we work as a multi-stakeholder collaboration, they come up with different priorities, different offices, district offices reporting to different line ministries. It's also added to the complexity of this space. And of course, digital divide also is another thing that we need to address carefully in the context of NRECAM, where we work with a wide range of digital skills of the farmers, while the DFFS is designed to address the farmer with low digital literacy, but in the same time, you also need to attract the younger farmer, the millennial group, the Gen Z. So combining this to address the two interests, it's also challenges and making sure it works for all different farmer with skills. So and that's to address that, and again, it's require ongoing collaboration, flexibility, and ongoing support. So sorry, my computer is stopping. Yeah, from this challenge, I think this is the I'll end here. Then we can discuss to more. But I'm sure I'm eager to hear your thought and ideas on that, and how we can further strengthen and also continue the work we have started here in NRECAM. And I'm looking forward for the fruitful discussion in this Q&A session. Thank you very much. Over to you, Beck.
Thank you, Ibu Lia. The first part of our session this morning. So we listened to Luz and Jan. We learned about the framework for Living Labs, and we saw two real examples. One on the river Citarum, I happen to know this river. Yes, I think yeah, I can relate very much to the challenges there. And another example from Ibu Lia from Sulawesi. For me, it's quite interesting to see also innovative elements introduced in these living labs. Digitalization, one of those, but probably also the methods for social learning. And in the meantime, I don't know if you can see from the camera, our room here in The Hague is full with students. So welcome to you all, Indonesian students working here, studying here in the Netherlands. I want to open the floor for questions. First of all, for the in-person participants here, and with support from Lotte, we can also address questions from remote participants. So, any questions? Peter,
Yes, thank you very much.
can you
for
please stand up?
Beg your pardon? Yes.
Yes.
My name is Peter Roelofsma. I am lecturer in cyber risk management and cybersecurity, and director of the first living lab for cybersecurity, where we co-create cybersecurity. I have had the blessing of being able to have already founded 2 other living labs in human ambience and in elderly care in Amsterdam. And I was really had this perhaps naive notion that you started with, everybody loves a living lab. And I heard about living lab approaches also from Rizal here at The Hague. So when I started launched the idea of starting a cybersecurity living lab, and cybersecurity is one of these issues which are related. This problem of sustainability, society issues. I thought that people would say, yes, we love living labs. However, the director of the Knowledge Expertise Center, Rutger, said, no, we don't need a living lab. And also the older lecturers who were here for decades, no, it's just what is it actually? We don't need it. Also, the director of my faculty of law, governance, and safety said, no, we don't need it. So I am kind of in a position because I see students love it. It's a new way of teaching. Society, they are very interested. Have you come across this before? What am I doing something wrong? I really checked, am I telling the right message? And I'm telling this. What can be at stake here? And how can you help me?
Thank you, Peter. So the question is Living Lab just a hype, or is it really creating impact?
And also, how do you rephrase the question? How can you help those who become living lab evangelists?
Yeah, okay, to convince them.
Or missionaries, how do you say it?
Anyone from the panel? Do you have a question that you want to respond to that question?
No.
Yes. I want to address that question first. Alus? Yes, please. Yeah.
Thank you, colleague, for this question. Our focus, if you're doing research, is on the hyping element of living labs. Yeah, and especially when it overlooks that it's a continuum of a longer search in history of searching for appropriate and sound learning strategies. So even the term living lab has a history, and it talks about making learning interesting for students, but also involving society as such. And there, while you are in cybersecurity, we have to be careful sometimes. I mean, it's easy to make some steps, and retrieval is more complicated than making the first steps. And especially if you say, well, how can we do so? Take it serious. And I hear from your very question, you take it serious. We also realize there is definitely resistance, reluctance, etc., from all the generations, to which I certainly somehow belong. Yeah, yes. I'm above 21 actually, and but it's not. It's in its essence, it's not you. It's this search for relevant education, relevant learning strategy, and at the same time, how to cater for risks involved. One of the major problems, I think, at the institutional level is if we organize learning, we have curricula, we like stability. We like to say, well, we are now in September, yeah. If it's possible to plan exams for next year, November, that would be fantastic, isn't it? So now if the colleagues at your side start in a living lab, and they engage with, let's say, a community here in The Hague, they have to follow to a certain extent the rhythm of that community, which for now our educational institutes don't allow. because they have to graduate, their fellowships are bound to strict measures, etc., etc. So I think who are in the senior management positions in our educational facilities, flexibility, yeah, which is required in line with certain learning strategies, is required. So you can't get it both. There should be a good balance.
Are you also implicitly saying that there is a kind of status quo bias, there's a reluctance to change also in this concept?
Maybe it's not a reluctance to change, but it's a lack of recognizing that if you as an institute don't change, you can't put all the risks on participating citizen groups. Yeah, they are at risk. I think Jan also mentioned it. Yeah, if we talk about farmers in Sulawesi, for example, yeah, they have to invent in different crop practices. Yeah, under the pressure of climate change, for example, changing from coffee culture to horticulture, which is an immense cultural change as well. And if you tell them, okay, let's also come up with a new way of organizing extension system, because the burden is too heavy for the current number of extension staff. Yeah, then as a university, which University Muhammadiyah is actually doing, they have to adapt as well.
Yes. Well, in my university, I see.
Thank you. That's the nice
Yes. Okay.
tips from you.
Yes.
You mentioned about Sulawesi. I think you have questions and you're from Sulawesi. So please stand up, introduce yourself, and can comment.
Thank you. My name is Marwia. I'm from Southeast Sulawesi, actually the neighbor of Ibu Lia. And thank you for Ibu Luz who has invited me to here. I'm interested in the living lab, which is actually it's new living for me. My institution is the Regency Agency for Research and Innovation. Before we transform from research and development to become green institution at the Regency level, and we are really interested in today's session, which is about living lab. My question is, where do I start? Because I know that probably I'm the only one from the government here at the Regency level, and we are on behalf of my government really like to propose the collaboration to be done the exactly same thing, because we also have a program in agriculture and production. So perhaps I should visit Ibu Lia to study about how to proceed with the bureaucracy process or government process, and I do hope that we can create collaboration with Ibu Luz and this university.
Thank you very much. From the government perspective, as one of the key stakeholders in Living Labs, where do I start? And Ibu Lia, would you mind responding to this question?
Yeah, I think from answering that, let me share the experiences of how do we start at the beginning. It was because this is from government, also managing the complexity of the district stakeholder in the case of the regional autonomy and so on. But I think the best entrance for this is going through the Bupati. So our experience at the very first time was coming through the Bupati, explain the idea, and then we got the support. So once you get the support, I think the other will follow easily. So the most important thing is to gain the support from the top level in the district, especially because all these districts that we work, the offices that we work, different offices in the district that we work with, they're all reporting to the Bupati. So I think the first thing is making sure that you have the support from the Bupati, and then starting to bringing people together. So in our case, once we get the support from Bupati, so he was leading the whole processes and us coming just as a supporting team technically, but all this management and leadership was through the Bupati. I think that was something that I would advise from where we start. That was, and it works well. The approach that we took worked very well. Does it answer your question, Ibu?
Yes,
Thank you for enlightening us with the role of local authority. I see a lot of questions, but I want to give the opportunity to students. There are a number of students here. Do you have questions? Do you have comments? Something new that you have learned this morning? Anyone? Yes, please.
Okay, hello, good morning everyone. So my name is Faisal and currently I'm studying interaction technology in University of Twente. So yeah, a lot of things that I do in my previous background, I'm as a designer, so I'm curious about the things that you already did on the research thing. And then this is one of the interesting things because I know that Indonesian is a bit different than we did it here because maybe because the culture and also the background is also different. And then the living lab is I think it's like a good idea to improve the environment and also the society there, but how to maintain the living lab as a like an active and collaborative place, because and then after that how to maintain the living lab as like the like what we have to do, like the goals we have to done. And then is there any further co-creation method or maybe further research we do after we establish the living labs?
Thank you. The question is how to keep the continuity of a living labs. As the goal is sustainability, but how to make a living lab itself sustainable. Anyone from the panel wants to jump in? Ibu Yesi, yes.
During my sessions, I will.
You will answer it during your
Ibu Dina.
session.
Ask
Okay,
Ibu
so
Dina.
be patient.
Professor Dwina. Okay.
Yes, all right. Ibu Dwina.
Okay, thank you. It is a bit difficult question. I think it is how to keep the sustainability of the living lab. So I think the important thing is keep communicating with the all of the stakeholder in with this Upper Citarum River. Actually, we still have a good communication with the community in the field in Ciwalengke area, and then also some, I think last year, I think some of them come to ITB to talk about their problem in their area. And also I think next month some of the students from the high school in there also wants to come to ITB. So at least we still the communication with the community is very important. And also how to strengthen them with what they want to do for their community or for their environment. So we can choose with different office in the province local government that we have to talk to, I think. So, and also we try to cooperate at the industrial association that also have a lot of activity in this area, I think. So communication is very important.
Dwina, thank you for underlying the role of knowledge institution as a catalyst, also connector between the citizens, industries, and the governments. We will have more time for questions afterwards, but I propose to move forward with the next example, Ibu Yesi and Peter. There's a living lab from a different sector, from the agriculture sector. So yeah, take us away.
Ya, thank you Pak Rizal for a nice introductions, Bapak dan Ibu yang ada di Indonesia. Selamat sore, ya, and also dear participants here in The Hague, and also all the distinguished speakers here. My name is Yesi Sari from IPB University, and together with my colleague, Peter Pandemir, we would like to present our experience in how do we implement the living lab concept during our project, what we call as the sustain farm. Okay, let me check if it is work. Yeah. Okay. nobody's nowadays doesn't understand about the palm oil, yeah, and we also knows that we are facing the problem with the sustainability, and then in the aim for improving the sustainability of the sustained palm, Indonesia and in Netherlands have been in collaborations under the Sustain Palm project, yeah, and also quoting the statement from the United Kingdom Minister on the Education, Culture and Science during our winter opening sessions. On the first day, he mentions that scientists are needed by the world, and then also collaboration is required for the sustainable world. And then for that, the Living Lab in the Sustain Palm project, yeah, we are involving several parties, and also as mentioned by Luz, yeah, and you said at least 3 keywords on the Living Lab. The first one is the multiple parties, yeah, and then also the second one is the co-creation, and then the third one is how do we providing the real solution, yeah, and then under the umbrella of Sustain Palm, yeah, which is the program, a 3-year program that aims to accelerate the use of land saving practices in palm oil productions by increasing the production's output, income, and the resilience to adverse condition. Yeah, we try to involving what we call as the quadruple helix, yeah, as the indicator of the existence of Living Lab, yeah, the involvement of multiple parties, yeah. Here we involve the ULM, Universitas Lambung Mangkurat, from Indonesia, Van Halarenstein, and also Wageningen University from the Netherlands, and also IPB, my institutions, and also BRIN from Indonesia. And next, we also involve the companies and also organizations such as palm oil companies, yeah, smallholders oil palm plantation, and also from the governments or public, we involve the local governments, and also Dinas Perkebunan or Dinas Kehutanan. And next, we also involve the communities or media for our project. And these including the villages, the community organizations, and also local and national media. And there are 3 working packages involved in this Sustain Palm project, yeah, and 3 of us already participate in this 5th winner, yeah. Our first colleague, yeah, from the working package 1, which is focus on the increasing the output by integrating the crop and the livestock. Our colleague from BRIN, she had a present during the poster sessions, while today, together with Peter from Working Package 2, me myself will let you know about what we have done in the Working Package 2. So in the Working Package 2, we are very much focused on how do we improve the circularity or the sustainability of the oil palm industries by improving the or utilizing the waste or the byproducts of the oil palm production. And then for that, we have tried to engage with several parties, such as academics, governments, private sectors, producers, and even the traders. And one of the examples or the case that we would like to solve during this project is how do we improve the sustainability of oil palm by utilizing the oil palm trunks for the sugar applications. And if we go back through the previous slide, yeah, you can see here on the slide that after for about 20 to 25 years, yeah, the plants needs to be replanted. And then for doing this, they cut down the plant, and then they just leave the oil palm trunks as it is on the land, yeah, which is, of course, it's not good for the in the perspective of sustainability. But we are very happy that in some places, yeah, the farmers they are already trying to get a benefit from the byproducts by utilizing the sugar content on the oil palm trunks to produce the sugar. Yeah, and they produce it as a block sugar, as you can see here on the slide. Yeah, and for that we try to build our living lab at the Pegajahan at Sumatra. Yeah, and we try to understand what is the bottleneck for these farmers. Yeah, in order to implement it in the national or even the global scale. Yeah, and also we would like to know what is the problem that exists in Indonesia, so that with the vast amount of the palm oil plantations, but not yet all of the plantations implement this sugar production from oil palm trunk. And then for that, yeah, we visited Pegajahan, yeah, and then we try to make a communications with all parties involved in that area, and then we also discuss with the local research and also academics, yeah. And in the third year of our program, we would like to make a kind of the standardization, yeah, and then also making a making a bridge between the farmers to the private sectors, so that we aim that the private sectors, particularly that relate with the food applications, they are eager to use the sugar from the oil palm trunk. And then in respect to the questions raised by the students during the Q&A, how do we make the living lab being sustainable? One of the approach that we that came up in our mind is the utilizing the IPB, in this case, yeah, IPB teaching factory, yeah. So it is also needed for several campus or university to build a kind of teaching factory, so that we can make this teaching factory as let's say what's so called playground, yeah, as a bridging to the big company later on. And based on that experience, I would like to pass it to Peter as well. Peter, time is yours now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Jessie. I will continue as coordinator of Work Package 3. We basically look at environmental sustainability and looking for, you could call it solutions for making oil palm more sustainable, and especially in the light of the environmental impacts, the carbon emissions which are associated with oil palm on peat, but also biodiversity loss. We, in our work package, we are together with the partners here on the screen are working on that. It's important also to stress that this program, I was almost going to say research program, but it's a program, is not a research program. Our funding comes from the Ministry of the Netherlands and the Ministry of Indonesia, and they specifically ask us to look for solutions and not for research. They're not looking for research outcomes. They want solutions in the field. So that's why we also took this approach, the Living Lab approach, where we can work more practically together already with also all the involved stakeholders in this field to look for solutions. And for, I think Jessie showed a nice example for the oil palm trunk problem, you could say, and elaborate a little bit on what we are working on. So one of the issues is oil palm on peat, and we have established in 2 locations where there are quite a bit of peat areas, in Sumatra and in Kalimantan. We have established several living labs where we work on those issues together with local institutions and local universities. In Sumatra, we collaborate mainly with IPB and local stakeholders to look at, okay, how can we do something about the peat on the oil palm on peat, and how can we make solutions which benefit both the oil palm sector, but also local communities and local livelihoods, but also reduce the CO2 emissions. We so one of the palm oil, the living labs, is based on deep peat in East Pensing, Bengkula village, and the other one is more on shallower peat, where we look at intercropping and also solutions to make productivity higher. Trying to use the arrows, but it doesn't work. I want to show you a short video clip. Lotte, is it possible? Which was being made by 2 students who went together with IPB students to this area, and they looked at what are the farmers facing, and what are some of the possible solutions. And I think you can show, is it working? Make too much time. So the students made a nice video together, I must say, with Nuffic Naso, which was very nice collaboration. If it doesn't work, then we just continue. Lotte, what shall we do? Live to time. It's showing basically, interview with a local farmer who has problems with his oil palm on peat because basically the palm oils fall over, and it's one of the problems. And you need to drain those peat areas, and there is a lot of CO2 emissions and fire. So that is why, especially in those deep peat areas, we're looking for solutions to replace oil palm with other crops. And that is what's being depicted in this video. Shall I just move on, Lotte? Yeah. Can I still move on? I don't think so. Right. Okay, thanks. So you can watch the movie. Yes, at the Sustain Palm website, so you can still look at it there. Moving to Kalimantan, the other area where we have several living labs where we collaborate with also local communities, with local farmers who are looking also at slowly moving away from oil palm on deep peat areas by taking some rows out of the oil palm and planting other crops which are more suitable for wetter conditions, like purun. And you see here a nice example of purun village, which is very specializing on making purun handicrafts. Kalakai, which is a local fern species which you can eat very nicely. It's a nice vegetable, but you can also make all kinds of other products from it. And we're looking at markets to develop and to see how we can market those products there. At the bottom, you see one of our students together with Professor Yudi from ULM, who is the leader locally, and in front of galam for trees, which is also a locally grown timber species, grows very nicely in those peat areas, is being used for construction. And there is a very good market for it, but it's just locally, and we're trying to upgrade that market. And we're looking at the value chain. We're developing various aspects in that. So we're looking basically at, it's a bit of a wrap up. We're looking at palydiculture, which is rewetting, and we're looking also at intercropping and agroforestry with more native species. Here you see one of the farmers who's also growing after the harvest. What Jesse showed is after 20-25 years, the palm oils are being cut down. Then they have to be replanted, and it takes a couple of years before the productivity starts again. In the meantime, you can plant very nicely Juruk oranges, and which is a very nice product. And the farmers are very happy with it, and they see there is a real market for that. So one of the examples how to diversify that oil palm productivity. In our work package, we also look specifically at how can living labs be incorporated, how can we facilitate that approach. So also a group from Indonesia came to the Netherlands, where we went to one of the living labs in the northern part of the Netherlands, in Friesland, where they actually are looking at the same issues. In the peat areas in the Netherlands, the meadow areas, you also have a lot of CO2 emissions and other issues. And also there, farmers are being bought out and areas are being redeveloped for nature, for instance. And so also there, it was very interesting to see how that works. With land use planning, you see on the top here, the local coordinator of that living lab. And one of the things we also found when we looked at what is needed for a living lab is a kind of conductor, a dirigent, the one who is in charge. And that is, I think, very important. But we also experience in a living lab to have someone who takes the coordination and who brings the parties together and who knows what the next steps are. So, in conclusion, some of the challenges, because it's not all, we are halfway through the program. We have made some steps, but there are still some challenges. And one of our, I won't read them all out here, but one of the main challenges we're still facing is that also we want to involve more private industries, local entrepreneurs who can also make sure that there is a real sustainability in this living lab. Because the living lab, of course, is looking at how can you make solutions, but they should end somewhere. And the solutions for whom? Those are the local entrepreneurs, or it can be local farmer groups, or it can also, of course, be the local government. But that, I think, is still a step we need to take and to strengthen. And also another thing is that how to keep it alive. How can you keep things alive, and that is depending on many factors. And that is something maybe nice to discuss as well. And I'm my last slide, I think. Oh yeah, that is still also from Jesse. We're very much looking forward to your input. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Well, the next one, the closing presentation, actually also an answer to the question how to keep this sustainable. Of course, it will be nice if we have a platform where the different knowledge institutions from the Netherlands and from Indonesia can work together, not only for individual projects, but a larger network. And that will be presented by William Sanchez. You will be introducing the NL Knowledge House and what we are doing in terms of Living Lab activities. William, the floor is yours.
So thank you very much, Rizal. My name is William Sanchez, and as before said, the key to success of certain living labs, you've seen all the presentations, and all this is true. And as being the project leader of the Netherlands Knowledge House Living Lab, I need to deal with all these issues from day one until when I stop working for the Living Lab. So it's a big challenge, and it's all not about me, it's all about the team. And the team consists of me, supported by Jeke Verschoor from the Haagse Hogeschool, Rizal, who has been guiding us through the process of designing the Living Lab, and I still have two other colleagues, Dan Westerik from Eres Group, who is not here today, and of course, our eyes and ears on the ground, which is Nuffic Southeast Asia, represented by Lotte Troost. So that's a team behind the Living Lab, which you're looking here. And I need you to understand two things. There's a lot of more, but two things to understand about this Living Lab, which makes it a bit more different than the other ones before. And I will use some slides, and also it is an innovative process. The slides are in a linear sequence, but I will walk through the story in a non-linear sequence. So my apologies if it does not fit your linear mindset. You see in this picture, the area, a kampung in Jakarta. Everybody knows Jakarta. I think you would come down there, big city, big streets, a lot of people, very overwhelming when you come there from the Netherlands. And you see this picture, not of the very beautiful colonial buildings, but the area next to it, Kampung Susun Kunir. And this is where it will all be happening physically. But this Living Lab is not just a physical concept. It's also a concept of within the mind, feeling the vibe of the city, feeling the heart and the identities of the people. And it's also about non-linearity in terms of history, the buildings, the people, the ambitions, and the environment. It's like storytelling. And I think one of the things I learned during this process is by accident is I got a book, a gift from a friend. It's written about the history of Jakarta. It's called Moederstad from Drosten. It's in Dutch, but it tells about the colonial history of the people living in Jakarta. And from there, I got a lot of experience, which I'll be applying to the Living Lab in the coming year. But first of all, who is a Living Lab? We need to define who is a Living Lab. It's not just a construct. It's not just a way of working. It's also about people. Understand, a Living Lab is certainly about people, and that makes it sustainable. Our ideas, our concepts of working will change over time, but what makes it sustainable is the people who we work with. That's the first answer to the question. And the people we work with, it starts with a certain ambition. The ambition is actually why you're here at Winner. It's creating mutual benefits between Indonesia and the Netherlands. And the key word is mutual. It's not about us telling them, you should do this, this is what you should solve, this is the way we work. No, it's a process of reflection, asking, discovering, not just one time, not just two times, but asking again and again and again, what is adding value to this problem which is being posed. And it all started, let's say, more than a year ago. Within the Knowledge House, we said, if we want to create mutual benefits as an educational organization composed of at least these 12 and more coming up, of educational institutes, research institutes, supported by the Dutch government, supported by the Indonesian government, how should we go about that? And by default, having not really a good language to talk about how we work, we said it will be a living lab. And a living lab is living, It's about people. It creates value over time, but it's also an experimental environment, a lab. So living is about life, and lab is experimenting. And that's all to the story. And I said, we trust certain people with their network to organize this living lab, to make sure that we have an added value to society in Indonesia and in the Netherlands. And you start and propose and work. That was the assignment more than a year ago. And now, 1 year later, let me just walk through the slide to the last slide, actually. Oh, apologies. We use this approach of experimentation. So this is the traditional living lab. That we heard about social impact. That's what we added to it. And we use this book, which was written in the Hague School, as a starting point. I said, that's a starting point. And we start talking to people, what is living labs? To you, what do you understand about it? What are other concepts? We heard about the work from Loes, and we did look into it, and we did look into the living labs in Indonesia, and we end up with, like I said, it's not linear. But this is the living lab. So what we did is we asked the partners in Indonesia, we asked the public, which we know, what would be the most ideal starting point of a living lab if we want to add value to society. We want to use students from the Netherlands, from Indonesia. We want to have a social problem. It should add to society in environmental and sustainability. And it should be done within a certain amount of time with the limited resources, but from the hearts of the people. And we got more than 30 reactions, small projects, big projects, and with a jury who said it should be applicable. It should be valuable to people who is going to be the part of the living lab. We'll be working on it. And it should also be about education and international collaboration. So this is the project which came out of it, inspired by Kampung Collective, who was already working in a lab, social lab, design lab in Jakarta on public spaces. But what was most promising about this proposal, it is about not just sustainability. It's not about public spaces, but it's also about participation. It's also participation of the people in the kampung. It's about including them in life in Jakarta, not excluding them as a kampung, but including them as citizens, the residents, and part of the social fabric and history of the kampung in Jakarta. And that's like, wow, big story, but you need to break it down to very small pieces and work with it. With the complexity of the students are working in the Netherlands or are going to start working in the Netherlands. There are students in Indonesia who needs to get to know the idea of the kampung, the public space, sustainability, and they need to work with the Dutch online and later on offline, and then again go offline, and in the end, both groups have to give back to the residents of the kampung. They have to be accountable for the time and money and resources they used from the social capital of the kampung, the knowledge, the art stories, but also the resources of the living lab participants and sponsors, all the members of the Knowledge House. And I don't have much story to tell you otherwise than it's a discovery of how to work, how to design a living lab, knowing that we have to talk and find stories and define 3 concrete areas where we need to add value with all the complexities I said. It's about international collaboration, online, offline, using social capital, and it has to be really visible to them. And we have to work with students, as students having, they have a social life, they have to study, they want to make friends. Oh yes, there's something about also willing to meet and to travel. So what we did is just visit the kampung and talk to people. And this is what came out of it. 3 stories. We said, if you are going to do a living lab, forget the big picture. Let's bring it down to the urban space. So this is the space where the kampung is, and this is this green area. And just 200 meters from here, you'll find the old city, the beautiful Dutch buildings. And what they said, as a kampung, please start with this urban space. don't solve this first, but solve the connection, the physical and social connection between this area, the kampung, and the big touristic city. So it's not about technology, it's about space, people, and identity. So that's a task where our students will be starting now. The second is, let's say, this is like a plant and a pot. But this is made of materials, plastic materials from the river. Well, we know how rivers are, dirty, polluted, and everything. But said, this is a space we are living in. And this is our daily experiences of the river. And we want to make sure that if we have this river, if we are going to clean it, that's to add value to our life, to our economic society and benefits. So that's the second part, circular economy. And the last part will be the green one. You have to live and eat, and a lot of green space there. How do you make that sustainable? And how can make value out of all these plants? So in the end, how does it look like? Just look at, let me give you one more slide. This is it. We're just tackling metropolitan problems using the value of the students. We have like a plan. It comes from this, let's say, ways of working, from relevance to inclusion, and it's all about human-centered design. And on the way, we are solving problems. And let's say I'm looking forward to the evaluation. It may be useful, but to look into our living lab in a 1 year time and said, William, it was great, but, and let's say you are surprised because this was practical. That's for me for now.
Thank you very much, William. It's very interesting, William. You highlight the role of students, right, as a key factor in this process of living labs. So we have not so much time, 5 minutes for discussions, question and answers. This is a picture taken about 2 years ago. You notice the figure on the left, that's Queen Maxima visiting our campus on the 70th anniversary of NUFIC. So yes, that's how long we have been working together and have been establishing our international network, also thanks to NUFIC and the NL Knowledge House, as William just mentioned. Questions? I noticed that you have questions, so please stand up, introduce yourself, and yes, ask your question.
Thank you very much for the occasions and also for inviting us. My name is Siswati Lestari. I am a lecturer at Food and Process Technology from The Hague University. So similar as Rizal, my background, so I'm Indonesian. It's been long years ago since I left Indonesia. So it's kind of so interesting to look into the disconnection and close collaboration between Indonesia and the Netherlands. We are from the food process, so it's literally actually chemical technology program with the connection of food technology. So we are at our program also interested to have kind of living lab environments for our students. And it is really for us as engineer, sometimes we try to solve from the engineering perspective, but we are forget about the social impact. So that's some kind of that Ibu Dwina also highlight in her presentation. So my question is, if we are from our program would like to elaborate this living lab approach as a new approach for our students to learn, okay, well, what you do in lab, what you do experimentally and try to solve this is actually to bring this technical solution and then bring it closer together that you have impact to society by how to start that initiative. So that's my question.
So start creating real impact. We learned about how to initiate the living labs. We discussed about the continuity, the sustainability of the living lab. Now the question is how to create real impact and extend that impact. Your question especially to Ibu Dwina?
Yes, because I think this is, I should also add, we are at this moment also doing some kind of project to solve one of the biggest problem in environment. So we are developing a technology for recycling plastic packaging from food processes, which mostly end up in environment. And the second project at this moment is in recycling of plastic, textile material. So, and I see one of the pollutant in the that end up in the rivers is then plastic packaging. We don't look into the research project, but we look into this, how to solve this in practical way. And at the same time, students also will learn at the end of their study how well they have this real impact to society.
Let's give the floor to Ibu Dwina to respond to that question. Ibu Dwina, please.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. I think it is a very interesting question. I think. Yes. At first, when we came to Ciwalengke Kampung with Luz or with other colleagues from the Netherlands, at first the community in there is also blame the industry that becoming the source of the polluters, I think, but they forgot. But they also they also give a burden to the river as well. So that's why I think we also need to give some information, clear information about what they do for their daily life. I think something like this. So sometimes they already very happy that they have an access to the water and have an access to this sanitation. That if we think from the our view, it is not proper access for the water and also for the sanitation. I think it is also same for the food process and also the knowledge about the quality of the food. I think so. Sometimes I think we can go to the field and also talk to them, and we try to change our minds about what they think about the good food, and also the how they think the good food from our view, and also including the how they uh, packing their food or their food to sell, or also to produce a very good food in this area. I think so. It is very nice if you can collaborate with us. We can start with the sanitation, and also we can also start with the food technology as your expertise. I think. Thank you
I
very
think
much.
that's a very strong conclusion, and that is the mission of Winner, right? So, to strengthen the collaboration, to continue collaboration, we can continue the discussion. But actually, some people would wish to go to Amsterdam for the Winner closing ceremony. So, unfortunately, we have to end the session. I want to thank the panelists, Jan, Peter, Jesse, William, Luz, and Jerke. I want to thank you all for being here, and also our online participants for your question as well. Not all questions can be answered, unfortunately, but we have the connection, so let's continue the discussion. Last but not least, I want to thank all the colleagues behind the scenes who have been working very hard to prepare and to manage this session, especially colleagues from NUFIC and our students who are supporting NUFIC. Thank you, Helen. You are managing the stage, the online stage. And even the director of NUFIC Southeast Asia, Peter van Tuyl, he was the, how do you call it, the conductor, the dirigent behind the scene, the mastermind, right? He's in Amsterdam as we speak at the closing ceremony. And of course, Lotte, I want to give the floor to you because you have the final announcement to make. And yes, Lotte has been working so hard in organizing all the presentations. Could you come up to the front, Lotte?
Yeah, I think Helen is going to play a final closing video. And for all participants here in the room, before you leave, we kindly ask you to scan the QR code, which leads you to a feedback form, and then you can receive an e-certificate from us. Thank you so much for coming. We wrap it up here.
We'll take a group picture of the panelists. I think it's better if we take for the whole